kind of be looped in, because sometimes what you think is small is not particularly small. It's just that you guys have been through LVADs and heart failure and, you know, all kinds of big things, and so you don't think about the small things mattering. Yes, Ken?
When I went to the dermatologist, what was it, last year, they had me sign this form to where it would open up my records to all of Barnes.
Yes.
So when I go to another doctor, does it ping you, or do you have to go and look for it?
Yes, they do actually, well, so we're working on that, but we're in the process of having like a unified list, so that if you have testing anywhere in our system, it will come up on that review list. We have had some challenges in that area, I won't deny that, as far as catching all the testing that you have within our facility. So, you know, and kind of being aware of that. We do, I mean, I would not discourage you from, if you have something done, just calling in and leaving a message with the secretary saying, hey, give Cindy or Lauren or Sandy the heads up. I had this done, you know, keep an eye out for it. I do appreciate those phone calls. It's not necessarily that I have to talk to you about it, but, you know, just give us a heads up. The other thing that we have been in agreement with is if you have labs drawn, give us a heads up. Because sometimes we've had some computer issues where they don't interface with our computers automatically, and you may be thinking, oh, everything's fine because I haven't heard anything, and we may never have gotten the labs in the first place. So we are working out the kinks, and Barnes is, you know, the main downtown Barnes is eventually going to go to the portal where you can access your lab tests and whatever else testing you have done. But we do encourage you to kind of, you know, give us the heads up. You know, I never discourage patients from calling us, except for Jeanette Gerfen. I don't like hearing from her. Yes, ma'am.
So meanwhile, you don't have a portal and you can't look. So can you get your blood test to actually look at it?
Yes.
And
Well,
how do you do that?
that's the goal, and maybe Jean can tell us kind of a timeline. The biggest challenge they've had of putting a system on that service is downtown, because it's so huge. I think Barnes West is on it, Barnes St. Peter's is on it. I don't know, Jean, if you know the latest in the timeline where the portal is going to be in effect downtown.
So if you get your blood test at Barnes West?
I think they, yes,
so
they have
look at it there?
Yes.
Okay.
They do have the portal.
I kept calling everybody saying, how do I get it? And they said you can't, so.
We still recommend that even if you go to Barnes West, that you call us and say, I had my quarterly.
I know, but I wanted to get a
Look at
copy
it.
of it or look at it.
Yeah.
You want the black and
I
white?
don't know how you go about that, because I tried calling.
Really?
So it's a
There-
form. I mean, did you fill out the portal form? I know there's a form, like when you go.
There was a form, but when I filled it out and I said, what do I do about it? And they said, no, we can't get it because we're not, you know, we're not. And I just had numerous problems.
Are you talking about my BJC?
What?
Are you talking about my BJC?
Yeah, where you go in and you sign up and you can get your test results. Well, Val Hoven is part of the, you're at MOVAP right now, right?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of a doctor thing, and Jean, you can I don't know if you do have the timeline, but it's just as Cindy said, it's always still good to call. BJC tends to be a little more conservative on what we share. So even though it's legal, so for example, you see a doctor just in the Barnes Jewish building, it doesn't mean that that doctor down the hall can even see your records. You opt in. So that's what some of us have done. But it's still good to call because it just means they have access to it. They're not necessarily getting an email or getting pinged for it. So it just means that they can read it, whereas sometimes they couldn't. But that is different than what we're calling the portal, which is my BJC. And basically, if you go to your doctor, it's going to be pretty obvious that they're a member, and you can sign up. I understand it's not the easiest thing to sign up for, because as soon as you sign up, you have like a 7-day window to confirm that you for sure want to be a member, and you sign in. And it's nice, it has kind of some, you can see some of your test results, but your doctors opt into that as well. So it's not like, oh, Barnes is a part of it. And it's like per physician. So that's kind of what that system is. And that's kind of what I know in terms of the MyBJC part, but also just know too that just because they're in the same building or even part of BJC doesn't mean that even your physician can see all your other records. So it's good to just communicate, and say, hey, I want this sent to this doctor as well. How can I make sure that's done? And the truth is, the doctors don't like us filling out form after form either. They do that for, we're working on it.
HIPAA.
HIPAA
Yeah.
changed our lives. And, and
Forever.
on all sides of healthcare.
Yeah.
So,
Do you guys know Val Hoban?
Yes.
So, yeah, she's an awesome, no, you've been an awesome resource, except for, some things. No, I'm kidding. I'm not kidding.
I haven't gotten my lab done. I work at a hospital.
All you gotta do is walk down the hall, right?
Okay, yeah.
So the only thing I'll add to accessing the labs, it has been a challenge, and we rolled on a phased approach. The real challenge is what do we kind of allow you to have access to? And the reason we have concerns about that is your ability to interpret what you're seeing. And so that's the real challenge. We don't want a bunch of information out there for patients to access and then kind of jump to the conclusion as to how they're interpreting those results. So that is kind of a labor of what we're going through now, trying to what is the best process for sharing that?
And I will clarify something for Jean, just because I do public relations, and I don't want anyone to think that we don't want people to know what's going. For example, what happens, you get a test done, everything automatically just sends you the test before your doctor even knows. So you see a result, he might not even know what your result was, and then you're calling him terrified. So that's part of that whole thing.
No, I mean, you bring up a good point, because sometimes a little knowledge is good, but sometimes too much knowledge is too much, and it's all in the interpretation, and, I will say, and, this is kind of off the record, turn that camera off. No, I'm kidding. And I think I brought this up at the last meeting. We have, our newer guys are very data-driven, which is good. That's what we want them to be. I mean, doctors that go by, what the data shows us is the best for outcomes. I will say that Dr. Ewald, while he is data-driven, he has a wealth of experience. And so a lot of times, he'll look at something and it will be an abnormality in a test, but he says, no, it's nothing to worry about. Don't worry about it. Well, you may look at that test and go, well, shoot, my tricuspid valve is leaky and this and this and this, and what the heck? You never told me that. It's because, at this point, there's not a change in therapy. There's not a consequence to it. And, he does, I've had to learn this, in a humiliating,
Some of us are
humble.
still
He really is. 90% of the time, he is, his intuition and his experience plays into the whole equation. And, I know, if I can use your gains as an experience, there's a lot of stuff that we can't tell you, this is how it's going to play out, because everybody's different, and the problems you encounter in the later years of transplant are much different than the early years, and we don't always have the answers. But what we promise to do, and what I promise to do for you guys, is to try to, work hard to make it as good as we can make it. Sometimes it's not what you want it to be. Sometimes you don't want to have limitations. But the truth is, at certain points, there's other things that happen, and the hearts maybe not work as well, or the other parts of your body give us grief, or the kidneys, give us trouble, and some people go on to kidney transplants, and have to go through that. So there are, what we promise you is that we'll try to make it as good as we can make it, and we'll try to offer you all the options we can absolutely offer you to make your life as good as we can make it, and I know these two colleagues of mine and I, promise to be there for you as much as we can be there, and to try to walk you through the process. That's one of the pluses and the minuses of this job. We try to be there for you, and I know I'd like to acknowledge, the Elkins family. Chad Neese was one of our transplant recipients that did not make it through the post-op period. She was a very complicated young woman, but very brave. Went through a lot, to get to the point of transplant. Got a great heart, but it was operatively very, very difficult. Much more difficult than we anticipated, but, I know her family was there for her, and, we're always very sad when it doesn't end, with a better life and, getting out of the hospital and being able to be there for your kids and your family and, being able to live long. And I do salute you guys for being here and being a part of this. I mean, that's very brave on your part. It just reminds us again that heart transplant isn't the be-all and end-all. We try to make it that way. I look at you guys, the Hamiltons and the Galladays over there. You guys have been through a lot, and the spouses have been through a lot, so take good care of yourselves. But, you've gotten these men to where they are, and, I have to, salute all of you. Jeanette, shoot, golly, you're given a death sentence, and look at you. You're enjoying your grandchildren, and I don't know, all of you guys are just heroes in my book. Tom Aguado, who as a kid, went through 3 or 4 heart surgeries and, really was given some slim chances of making it to adulthood, and he's a father and a dad, and, I wrung my hands over his transplant because I felt like it was going to be dicey, and he flew through it. So, he had a great surgeon, and, and there's a lot of situations, we are, as Lucas can testify, we are not God. We try to do the best we can, but in the end, it's not in our hands. It's in somebody's hands outside of ourselves. It's my own little editorial. But, we do salute you guys for going through what you've gone through, and, the spouses and the families that have been there for these patients. It's an awesome thing. So, all right, I'm getting the stares from Lauren.
I'm going to interject here because that, we don't have that. Because we haven't been around as long as she has, and we know that that's one reason that you love her as well as we love her. She has a wealth of information to bestow on us, and we just want you to know that every time that you call, you can't always have her. But we promise, Lauren and I promise, that if you call us and you leave a message for Cindy and she can't handle it, we will handle it for you. We will either go to the people who know a little bit more than Cindy, or we will catch Cindy in between what she's doing. But I just want you to know, just because we're not Cindy and we don't have all of those experiences, we do, and we will take good care of you as well. I just want to interject that.
I have to say, I've been incredibly blessed. Jessica was awesome, and Sandy is awesome. Lauren has been a rock. They are on the ball. They are smart. I've been very blessed to have, good colleagues, good, strong nurses. They really do care, and I'm telling you, I couldn't do this job without them. I think I was telling somebody earlier, I have 3 teens at home, so today's been a little rough day. Got some hormones going on at home.
Don't throw a pity party.
My 13-year-old was like, Mom, you want a pity party or something? I'm like, ooh, you are so rough. But anyway. But, you guys make it worth it, because we love seeing you make milestones, birthdays, anniversaries, kids' birthdays, grandkids. It's an awesome thing. Anything else you guys want to? I will say, you guys do make it easy for us because you do good follow-up, and I would say spread the word. I will say one thing, somebody asked me earlier about the mentor program, and I will talk to Nina about that. It's a busy time of year right now. January and February are heavy laden with insurance issues because you guys have probably experienced that the sign-ups and the changes, and it has been difficult. Sandy has been, through some things with trying to get prior authorizations on new insurance. I would say this, and I know Sina is coming at a future meeting, and I think Nina is too. Call us if you have a question about insurance before you sign up with a different program. Before. There's some insurance vendors out there that will tell you anything you want to hear, but in the end, sometimes it ends up badly for coverage of medications. And some of it has been very difficult to reverse. So make sure if you have insurance questions to call us. I know somebody said to me the other day, well, Cena doesn't have all the answers. She doesn't have all the answers, but she's working hard to try to figure it out and figure out what we're working with. So,
And she knows where to get them.
yeah, she
She
does.
doesn't have the answers.
She does have the resource information. So always call if you have, trouble with that. I would also like to tip my hat to Melinda Primo. She's been an awesome representative from XDX. This is a company that's been very good to us to try to learn the ropes with regard to AlloMap testing. They started out of Stanford actually, and their central lab is in Brisbane, California. And whenever we have a question about an AlloMap test, because I know you guys have, kind of heard our explanations for why your numbers are a certain way, this company has been very responsive to us and helped us to kind of learn, how to present AlloMap testing in a kind of understandable way. So I really appreciate the support that Melinda and her colleagues at XDX have been given to us, as far as finding out the information and transmitting it to you all too. So, any questions? Oops.
Time's up.
Any questions or anything anybody wants to say? I think, do you guys usually get up and tell your name and when you were transplanted? And if you could, each individually tell your name and the date you were transplanted, I think that would have a lot of meaning to everybody else. So, and by the way, Tim Johnson, your labs look awesome. Taking care of business. I'm glad. I ran into Tim the other day and I said, have you had your labs yet? And my gosh, she got one the next day, got them the next day. I know, love it. Yes, sir.
Okay, I just celebrated my third year, and I went to Barnes West. And what are the procedures after the third year? Because I know you don't do as much testing afterwards.
So,
I can answer that one. I can answer that one. So after year 3, from year 3 for the next 3 years, we'll do a stress test, whether it's an exercise stress test or a dobutamine stress test, and then still your quarterly labs. So you'll go get quarterly labs, like you always have, and then at your annual, which doesn't necessarily always land on your annual due to extenuating circumstances, as you may have seen. So that's the testing that will be required then. So it's less invasive, unless you're having issues or problems. Then Dr. Ewald may decide to do something different. So the process for that is, when you're wondering what's taking so long to get your annual appointment scheduled, is we pull all of your testing from the previous year, as well as Dr. Ewald's notes, and we fill out a particular form and they all get sent to Dr. Ewald. And then we wait for him to send them back, deciding what testing after he's visually looked at everything. So it is a process. It's not just you come up on the list and we schedule you. So that is what kind of takes a long time in that case.
Just because I've been doing the AlloMap, which is fantastic. Thank you guys. Thank you very much for the AlloMap. So I won't be doing AlloMap. I'll just be doing my regular.
No, not necessarily. We do incorporate the AlloMap testing as well in conjunction, because the AlloMap testing can tell us many things. As the farther you get out, the predictive value rate, which is you're now using outside of my scope, but as far as testing wise,
So I'll
stress
still
test,
get it
quarterly
done
labs.
next year?
Yes. And I do still want to stress the fact, as we were talking about earlier, as far as getting your lab results, on the day that you go to get your quarterly lab results, it's always a good idea just to call in and let Michelle or Debbie know, hey, this is so-and-so and I got my quarterly lab results. That way it can put us on the radar to be looking for them, even though most of the time we do get them and we can give you a call or send you a letter. It is still, it's just to help us so that nothing gets slipped through the cracks, so you can put us on our radar.
It has to do with quarterly labs, since I've changed insurance companies that you're well aware of.
Yes, I am.
I also have to change my primary lab from LabCorp to Quest. Now, having worked in the laboratory, I know that each area, each facility has its own procedure, different normal range. How much fluctuation am I going to see in like my tacrolimus results going from LabCorp to Quest?
That's actually a good question, and I'm not sitting field.
Well, hopefully, so the thing, and, Jean, correct me if I'm wrong, the thing that you have to remember about labs, and fortunately with tacrolimus levels and cyclosporin levels, it's really been standardized. In the early days, we used to have everybody mail their blood to us, and we ran it in our lab because we knew what tests they were using, and there was initially a lot of assays that had a lot of variation in results. These days, the major Quest and LabCorp, Barnes, are very reliable because they use the same assay. The thing that you always have to remember about lab tests, and well, I won't go there, but anyway, there's variation. So if you get a creatinine of 1.1, it really means that your creatinine is somewhere between 1.3 and 0.9. I mean, it really, there's the range. I mean, it's the same with your blood count. If you get a white blood count of 2.6, it really kind of means your blood count's within a certain range around that number. They're not really absolute. So we forget that because we too, really hinge on those absolute specific numbers, especially when they get really low. Aileen. No.
But it's normal, so you're used to it.
I know, and and I will say that gives us a distinct advantage over somebody that sees you one time and goes, "Holy cow, your white count's really too low," or "Holy cow, your creatinine's too high." Well, we have the benefit of seeing what your lab results have been for years, and so we don't get alarmed when we see something that's pretty much in keeping, with where you've been. And again, I mean, Dr. Ewald is a very strong believer in, if you're feeling good and if it's kind of within your range. I mean, obviously, if we see a dramatic change, that's more of an alarming value to us. And frequently, when we get progress levels that are out of whack, we'll recheck them before we rely on just one test to tell us how to adjust your medicine. And the same is true with other, lab results. Yes, Judy?
Will the old powders go on the element?
It depends. I mean, we're still trying to figure out what the long-term implications of Alamap, and they've just started a registry where they're going to look at kind of what Alamap readings kind of can predict for the long term. So I would say